So, hi everybody. I'm Daniela Andrian. I'm your host today on this Agri-tech innovation topic, and really happy to have you on this panel. So, I introduce myself. I'm Daniela Andrian then, and I'm a telecom engineer, and I work in this field around 20 years, and now I have my own company as a coaching, consulting and training company. So I'm happy today to share this nice topic you are all expert of. So for the beginning, could you please introduce yourself? And then we could start with Ben.
Yeah, my name is Ben Thompson. I manage the Hartpury Agri-tech Centre based at Hartpury University and Hartpury College in Gloucestershire in the UK. So the centre has been officially open since February 2020. Obviously, a lot's gone on since then across the world, but we've managed to successfully transition to do a lot of different things digitally. In terms of a short summary about how the centre operates and what its aims and objectives are, is there to improve access to the latest available agri-technologies for farmers as primary food producers. So whether that be through practical demonstration, technical knowledge exchange, training, specialist events, and bringing that together at a real world setting, whether at Hartpury's on-site commercial farm as a practical base, or also covering other farming sectors as part of our digital farming network as well. This is very much just phase one of a 10-year strategy that Hartpury has to develop and evolve its agriculture campus into a digital innovation farm, focusing in developing facilities in link to obviously the ways in which things are going, which is more digital, and obviously aligning technologies and a place of learning for both industry and obviously the future generations as well. Whether that's supporting the environment or whether that's supporting data management, cybersecurity, etc. We're certainly focusing on that area, but also making sure it's very applied to a learning base for both industry and education and the future generations. So really excited to be a part of this panel today.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Kuda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kuda. I'm an agripreneur with an agriculture and land management degree from Hartpury College, actually. I finished my studies way back in 2003, and I came back onto the farm in 2006. It's the family-owned farm, which has 1,800 hectares, of which we're farming on 850 hectares. Of that, 600 hectares is irrigable under pivot and drip irrigation and various things. We also do livestock. So we've got cattle. We run 1,000 head cattle of Brahmani Charolais cross, and we're currently introducing Aberdeen Angus into the herd. We also do chickens, so we've got broilers. At the moment, our capacity is 50,000 every 5-week cycle. We've also got sheep and goats. We run bull goats on the farm mainly. The sheep at the moment, we sort of cut them off, but back into the program. We also do fisheries. So we've got tilapia fish, of which we got 8 ponds that have got 15,000 in each pond at any one time. So that's basically the livestock side. With regards to cropping, we've got seed maize. We generally play around the 50-60 hectare mark for seed maize. Commercial maize, we are on about 200 hectares per season. I've got tobacco as well, about 80 hectares, right, of tobacco. Potato, which at the moment we've got 12 hectares of seed potato for processing market. We've also got tomatoes. As you can see, there's quite an array. So we generally just try to do a number of rotations. But we usually play around a balance between the commercial side of cropping, which is the maize, soyas, and the beans, and then also on the horticulture side, putting in potatoes in rotation and tobacco in rotation. That's basically what we do. We've also embarked on a scheme of actually renting out land nearby us, which at the moment we've acquired about 600 hectares worth for the expansion for next year. So yeah, basically we run that program, and in the future, what we actually want to achieve, get our global cap and move into blueberry production and peas production, and then also macadamias and so that's in a nutshell what we do. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to be on the panel.
Thank you, Kuda. Thank you. So it's your turn, Tawanda.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I haven't put the video on. It's just because of the 3G I'm using. I'm an entrepreneur, and I've been in the land mine clearance business, renewable energy business, agricultural business, and also a business consultancy business. We've been doing seed and also pigs, and I've been mainly focused on sweet potato myself. I'm looking at sustainable farming solutions for cash, and that's what I'm focused on, and also running around looking for a market that I do with the people I produce with.
Okay, thank you. So we will go through all the questions then. So the first question is, what does agri-tech means to you in your context? So we could maybe start with Kuda.
Yeah, thank you very much. Agri-tech for me basically means we've got a God-given resource in Zimbabwe, and the climate, and water, and like our responsibility as farmers and as human beings to be able to produce sustainable food in order to feed our nation, number one, and also the other nations that are in need for us to feed. My view with agri-tech is basically for us to be able to produce at the right quantities, at the right time, with the mindset of saying we need to be sustainable and we need to ensure that our environment is kept and all our natural resources are kept so that we can pass them on to the future generations. So that being said, the new innovations that have come in over the years have improved agriculture, improved efficiency, have maintained our soil health and the like. So for example, on our farm, we try as much as possible to use as many technologies that are out there. So for example, we use drone technology. We actually send out drones to have a look at our lands to see, you know, what could be a problem disease-wise, water deficiency, and that sort of thing. And we use that data in order to improve what we're doing. The last thing we want to do is actually have an effect on the environment, you know, over-fertilizing crops. Like, so we're actually trying to move into precision farming by buying equipment that, you know, caters towards it. So far, what we've done is we've used a lot of technology in the sense that we get our soil samples done, get our farms remote sensed, so that we can actually see what's required in a particular piece of land. So those are the soil analysis results that come back to us. We actually then use them to try and ensure that we're doing what's right at the time, and ensuring that, you know, we're not over-fertilizing, we're not putting any chemicals, which, number one, affects the environment, number two, also it's the farmer's pocket. So that being said, anything that comes in that improves what we're doing is an added advantage. And just out of interest sake, from the farms that we're actually renting around us, the amount of land that's there at this point in time is not as much as it was before. So you find rotation become a lot more difficult. And then you tend to see that, you know, you're using the same land a number of times for technologies that come, particularly like one that we just heard recently, where we can use algae and that sort of thing, definitely in order to improve our soil health and then allow us to keep on a lot longer. On the livestock side, we've had a number of issues lately. One major issue being that we've had issues, a lot of stock theft. So things that can track cattle, so that we know, okay, the cattle are in this particular place. So technology will definitely help us, farmers on the ground. Two, on the feed consumption side, it'll be good to also track and know exactly what's happening with cattle. Yes, you can cattle on the floor, but I would say that there should be technology that can give us almost day-to-day data that can allow us to make management decisions a lot quicker and a lot sooner. So any sort of technology that way, it would be good to get involved and get it on the farms and efficiently working sustainable and helpful to the environment. Sorry, Daniela, I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, here we
Okay.
are. Thank you.
Okay.
So, Tawanda, what is Agri-tech for you in your context then?
Right. Agri-tech for me, in my context, is producing more with less and making the farming business more efficient. So that's from field itself all the way through to the market on the shelf. So that will include internet, for example, tracking records. All your production that you're doing is already orientated to a market. So even the tech side is also involved within the whole value chain of the agri-tech. So in terms of that, you're looking at productions that that, right, this is guaranteed by a market. And two, it's made more efficient through agri-tech in terms of control. Now, the agri-tech levels are different from small scale all the way to corporate scale. And so at my level, someone like me would tell you, okay, having solar and having drip will really make my operation more efficient. You get the sense? But someone at a larger scale, corporate level, will say, look, if I had robots to pick my stuff during these, pandemic eras, and then there would be no drop in, in production in terms of harvesting and all this stuff. Not even needs to be done through, technology. So it's more about efficiency, and trying to get the formula right, so that at least the whole world can be fed and have the right food, nutritious food that everyone can survive on. You get the sense. So that's all inclusive of processing and everything. So all that needs, like, when someone's getting something on the shelf, they know where they got it from, and they know how it was produced, and it was made more efficient for everyone to get that food. You get the sense. That's my view of agri-tech efficiency.
Thank you, Tawanda. Thank you. So Ben, in your point of view, what's Agri-tech?
Yeah, I'm quite broad, really. Obviously, I've come from a farming background myself. It's great to hear from Kuda and Tawanda and their experiences and using different innovations. And from my own personal experience, and obviously from the work experience now, agri-tech certainly is considered anything really at the minute. You can view any new innovation as agri-tech, and it's certainly not categorized in a certain box. But I think it's for people to understand what's a science, which is obviously exploring new knowledge and scientific knowledge. And obviously a technology in itself is applying that scientific knowledge to create a product or service. And now agri-tech is obviously using technology then to bring about greater productivity, efficiency, which is obviously what Kuda and Tawanda mentioned, and obviously optimizing inputs, all whilst doing that sustainably. There's no point doing something to gain greater productivity or efficiency if it's only going to bring about a short-term benefit. So it's all got to make sure that that's sustainable as well. Now, Agri-tech certainly encompasses over different farming methods or methods of management. That could include precision farming, as Kuda mentioned, so being able to measure something at a greater accuracy. So whether at a specific area of a field or a plant level, or within regards to livestock, you could look at different elements, look at nutrition, general health, activity, all the way to obviously just general recording, as Kuda mentioned, about security as well. Now that's obviously one method as a result of greater accuracy. We're now moving towards obviously doing what's called smart farming now, which is with the use of self-monitoring and recording technology. So actually technologies that are able to self-monitor things and able to record that through AI, machine learning. A key example is obviously using smart tags, whether in dairy herds, dairy farms are able to monitor the health and activity of their herds and be able to link that to breeding decisions, and obviously making you aware of any problems before they become serious issues as a farmer. And also we have biotechnology to come into some aspects of that. So rather than be technology in the hands of a farmer, it's more those scientific principles and technologies used to create something of use by the farmer then as an end result. So an example of that could be GM crops, for example, any resistant crops, seed varieties, seed treatments. These are the examples of biotechnology to bring about greater innovation, greater productivity, greater efficiency on farm. And again, adding to that sustainability, if we're affected by different variables, we'll be able to respond to that as well. So continuing to produce good high yields through the years, despite maybe different pressures coming in. So obviously agri-tech, like I mentioned, I've probably tried to summarize a bit too deeply there about what it is, but it's easy to think too broadly and think that agri-tech is basically anything new coming into agriculture. But I think new innovations, new practice certainly has its own sort of position. So regenerative agriculture, etc. But I think in terms of the use of agri-tech, those are the sort of key areas where they're being used, and certainly seeing what some key examples of what I've experienced and been aware of anyway. So that's certainly my definition or summary of agri-tech from my area of work anyway.
Thank you, Ben. So it's interesting, since we will go to this, the second point we could talk about and share, it's about what you see as an advantage or one challenge in adoption of those technologies. For you as a farmer, for example, Tawanda, what could you say? Is he there? Hey, hello, Tawanda?
Hello, my mic was muted. Sorry.
Okay.
Right. The advantage for me with agri-tech, right, will be, like I said, be more efficient with everything I do in terms of operations, and you have more program production. You get the sense for everything. So there's less of the hard manual work. You get the sense, and there's more of the you utilizing that time you'd wait for that manual work to do something more productive. You get the sense along the cycle within that farm. Mm-hmm. So I mean, probably learning more about machines. You get the sense, and in terms of how to operate them and run with these machines. The challenge is that, right, obviously labor is going to be a challenge, because if you have people being replaced by agri-tech, and then you are worried about what they're doing within the background if they're no more employed, you get the sense. And so that, becomes an issue with security. So it's almost like if you have one thief in 100 people, you get robbed once every 100 days. If you have 10 thieves in 100 people, you get robbed 10 times, within those 100 days. But 100 thieves, you get robbed 100 every day, you get the sense. So it's an issue of where agri-tech comes in, and then what are we doing with these people here? That's the challenge that are coming out of these areas.
Yeah, but don't you think that one part of it, since having those machines on the farm may need more investment and all those kinds of stuff. So it may not be so drastic right now. What do you think?
Right now, it helps everything to be efficient. You get the sense. But the thing is, with agri-tech in the future, if you're not with it, you're out. You get the sense. And that's exactly where it is, you know. Those people are basically being pushed out. So that's not a problem, but at least we have to find something else for these people. Probably that's why I'm saying maybe they have to learn machines. You know, you get the sense.
What do you think of that, Kuda?
Yeah, no, I agree with what Tawanda was saying. I think the main advantage is obviously for farmers is the efficient aspect. The fact that, you know, over some time, it'll definitely pay itself back with regards to efficiency. The biggest thing for me is obviously with climate change at the moment. It's something that's pertinent, that you have to know what you're doing when you're putting stuff into the ground, and you have to protect the environment, ensure that, you know, you can pass it on. You all got children, you want them to have a future going forward. It's just that understanding of saying, okay, for the future, what we need to do now, so that we know our heritage is kept in a sense. So that being said, also, I mean, you know, Zimbabwe is a country with lots of livestock. We pride ourselves on our tourism side, so you also don't want to have that effect on your animals. So that side of things is definitely, that's something that's very close to my heart. We definitely have to bring it in. One of the major challenges is obviously finance, and actually knowing. I think there's also a need for some sort of connection. Back in the days, Agri College used to have a connection with one of the colleges, which was Watershed College. And I came from Watershed College, and, you know, we got credit and went to Agri College. That actual knowledge aspect would be good for some of the colleges to actually connect to some of the colleges on our end, and then we teach it from absolute level, so that, you know, kids can know at an early age of what they're actually doing, not then catch up to technology a lot later on. So for me, those are the major challenges. Obviously, you know, certain things like connectivity on farms and that sort of thing are some of the pertinent day-to-day things. Those are things that will change with finance, and can change with finance over a short period of time. The fact that, you know, we're not doing it early enough is a major setback. Well, our kids probably won't even want to go into the field if we don't do it on time. And especially these days, you know, they play with tech most of the time. So it'll be a good time to actually introduce it and bring it in there.
Thank you, Kuda. So Ben, what do you think with all your experience with farmer in UK? And
I think, well, UK agriculture, I'll speak on behalf of UK agriculture, but agriculture in general, it's one of these funny sectors in that it's can be affected in its success by so many different variables that you probably don't see compared to other sectors. And there's also so many things that you cannot readily control. Obviously, both Kuda and Tawanda obviously affected by the weather. One thing that you cannot control unless in a controlled environment, indoor house farming. But if we're looking at broadacre crops, it's more difficult to control. Now, an advantage to, let's say, agri-tech and its implementation in the sector is the fact that we can now provide a measure to the likes of many different aspects across your farm, really taking away some of the gut instinct from a farmer. So rather than having a high element of risk, it's taking away some of that risk and also enable you to be more proactive in management. So like I mentioned before, I gave that example of some of the smart tags used for dairy farms. They're being aware of any high temperature, which is often one of the earliest occurring symptoms to any health problems or poor activity. So having an early indication of that enables you to be more proactive in treatment, and also enables you to be more productive and efficient in saving costs, which you need to be in order to be sustainable. So we're now obviously seeing a lot of technologies come through, robotics, etc., all add into the fact that they're becoming more digital. So a lot of technologies going through are either using data for function as part of automated systems or robotic milking units, or we might see self-driving tractors, for example. All are going to be using data for function, or we are seeing software providing data as a service to the farmer, enabling you to go a bit more paperless, or providing a service to make you aware of certain aspects of your farm, like I mentioned before. You could have wireless sensors that can now measure soil moisture, water quality through a larger IoT network, which is really exciting and certainly something we're interesting to find out about a bit more about, and also the findings about at Hartpury. In link to the challenges of that, when it comes to capturing data from various sources, it's what you do with that data then, and obviously where that goes to actually make sure that it aids efficiency rather than add another job to the job list. We run the risk, if we capture more and more information around the farm, that farmers are going to spend more time analysing data than actually going out and carrying out farming practice. So it's making sure we can combine big data with solid data science so that we can translate and analyze and obviously combine analytics to that, or machine learning and all AI, etc., to make sure we get useful insights out of masses of information. I'll give you an example. You could obviously, with regards to, again, the smart tags for livestock, that could be monitoring activity continuously for ages, but obviously that's massive information every day. Now, a farmer hasn't got time to go through all that information, but linking that to an alert of when any recordings come outside of the norm is a really useful tool, and then obviously a commercial value to a farmer. You know, if they're busy carrying out some other task, they then get an alert. Now, as we introduce more digital tools into our world, and obviously agriculture, I mean, every one of us here has a mobile phone, you know, and we're utilizing we're utilizing tablets, computers now. So as we move forward into a more digital world, it's making sure that data associated with things around the farm is able to talk to one another. So otherwise we run the risk of having multiple applications, multiple programs, multiple screens for different products we may want to use on farm. And a common issue we're seeing in UK agriculture is some of these things don't share data with one another. So you're having to open up different programs just to look at what's wrong, what could be wrong, or how the progress is of a certain aspect of your farm, and having to look at something else and make the comparative yourself, which you could probably have saved some time actually without having any of it at all to start with. So it's making sure that we can have those connections, and farmers are empowered with the knowledge of understanding how data is shared, which is certainly what we're focusing on at Hartpury is making sure, and adding to Kuda's point about the younger generation, that's certainly something Hartpury is focusing on as part of their studies. They're able to understand not only the fundamental things. So I always argue the fact that you still need to learn the parts of a tractor before you then learn about how GPS benefits that function and obviously the mechanism. So it's for them to understand outside of their curriculum how it all links together, and also understand industry challenges and how you link it together as well. So again, around data, you've got connectivity, another challenge. You know, Kuda mentioned it. Is very good. You could probably capture data to your farm as a central farm office or central computer, but in terms of where that data then goes efficiently is reliant upon connectivity. It's the much needed framework to obviously distribute data, but enable empowerment for farmers on an individual level. So we certainly need that, and we certainly need it to utilize some of these digital technologies as they become more advanced. So anything using AI, machine learning, or robotic function, or larger automated systems, they will need good connectivity to be supported outside of the farm. and obviously receive benefits back to the farm in such after. So a lot of challenges, but also a lot of benefits too, you know, in that we're now able to capture various sources and obviously improve our productivity from simply taking on an app on your phone all the way to sort of larger management software, like I mentioned, robotics, automated system. But the infrastructure behind that needs to improve as a key challenge, but also the knowledge base, as Kuda mentioned as well. And we're certainly focusing on that at Hartbury. But we are moving in the right direction, but it's worth addressing these problems as well, really.
Thank you, Ben. So would you like, where are you today, Kuda, with all implementation of those data collection? And what may be the challenge you face now?
With regards to data collection, so far we've got things like moisture meters in the fields. Obviously the drones that go out, we've mapped out our lands, road mapping, so we get this information coming in on a regular basis. But where we do then find our challenges, because on the farm, on the main farm, we don't have as many challenges because of connectivity. I've got a booster that's close by, so it's not so difficult to get connectivity. Where we do have challenges is the lands that we're renting at the moment. We're busy trying to pair up, trying to get information on those particular pieces of land, but the connectivity side of it is definitely quite difficult at the moment. So it makes things very difficult, makes things very slow, and yeah, just getting that information back on time is pretty difficult. So we actually started planting this season on one farm, which is probably I'd say 60, 70 km from where we are on the main farm. We had an issue where our irrigation wasn't functional for a couple of days, and we only picked it up a bit later on. Yes, there's an aspect of, okay, maybe I should have been there at the time, but you know what we put there in a moisture meter, what actually happened was there was a power cut. We fell on the line and we didn't get that information, sort of. So we've got issues like that are pretty difficult, but all in all, I think the technology is definitely welcomed and it's playing its part with regards to it.
Thank you, Kuda. And Tawanda, what do you think may be the challenge or the challenge you already have on your farm or on your community of farmer for implementing those technology of data collection? Tawanda, you lose him?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. No, with our community, we've started collecting data between ourselves now. Between ourselves, that's manually, and now started even choosing varieties of which to produce for sweet potato and stuff like that. So the issue is now we're collaborating more before than we were in the beginning. Because when I came, and I was telling them, look, farming is going to change, and in terms of sweet potato production, we're going to go to the vitamin A varieties. And they just told me I was talking rubbish, but as the time came on and I helped them with the, little businesses, they were now selling seed and everything and making money. And now they're the ones that are saying, yeah, you really helped us. You get the sense. So I think more of this line of Agri-tech will even better their operations, because at least with them and what we are doing is that most of us use target workers. You get the sense, for our workers, for our productions. So we don't have permanent workers. And so it's only even better now when you have the Agri-tech to help you within all that work. You get the sense.
Okay, then. Do you want to add something more about these topics, Ben or Kuda? It's okay for you? Okay, then.
There's one thing, obviously with the what's happening on the world. Obviously, we've got particular information that we get in Zimbabwe, and then obviously for first world countries, there's more information that comes at a much quicker period of time. So I think, things like these obviously help with regards to getting more information and what's worked for us. So yeah, it'd be quite good to set up something that's sort of bog standard for the world in a sense, or that with particular countries where there's information that's passed by. I think all of us know our strengths and weaknesses. So yeah, it'd be good that we start something that information, find out about information about markets in the UK, particular that are coming out in the UK that can be beneficial. So, and there's nothing really specific. Maybe obviously I know a few sites from being back at school, sites that I used to go on in the UK, but it's not as obvious to everyone else in the sense of what's there, what's available. So the communication side definitely also needs to be part of that.
Yeah, I'll add in the fact that the more positive case studies you can promote, the better, really, because agri-tech certainly can seem quite daunting. Because agriculture as a sector, agriculture as a practice, farming is certainly built on traditions. It's a traditional industry, and it's some responses to agri-tech being a very, very new thing, and obviously latest innovations, and obviously causing quite a lot of change, can cause sort of hesitancy. As how do I make my first steps? How do I take further steps? What do I look at? What should I be looking at? So the more positive case studies you can talk about regards to positive implementation on farms, so real world active farms that are experiencing, some environmental pressures, economic pressures, whatever it may be, and talking about their effects, and obviously talking to others, encouraging sort of communication between others is really important. There is a slight stigma against agri-tech in the fact that, some responses are the likes of, why should I change? If I'm doing quite well, as a farming business now, why should I start looking at technology to further improve? Now it's a completely, valid point. I think my sort of response to some of those questions and those points is that although you may not choose to change now, look around you at what is. If you take a bit of time to maybe step back away from your farm slightly and talk to others and talk to other farmers and maybe what they're taking on, what they're implementing, what they're starting to use in terms of technology, and also changing the environment. Obviously, Kuda mentioned about climate change being a crisis or an impact or a pressure that in fact is going to impact us all. Agriculture as a sector and farmers have a good responsibility and a really positive impact to go against that and make a positive change. So I think as we experience a lot of those changes, it's good to look at what could benefit your business. Like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be drastic. It can be very much as simple as, I'm going to start using this app to monitor this, but understanding where that data and information goes and making sure that it's adding to your efficiency as a business. So it's not something that is going to add to the job list. Kuda mentioned there about his irrigation going wrong. I mean, it would have been great for him to have an alert, but not potentially something that's on a completely separate program that he has to open up in something completely different. So maybe have taken a bit of time for him to sort of find and source. He probably would have liked something quite immediate. I imagine Kuda, something that came to him quite quickly to say that this is wrong, this needs to be fixed. So as soon as possible. Having real-time information and monitoring at an efficient level is really important. So we're really interested in technology that can align with that and align with obviously benefiting the environment, obviously improving productivity, efficiency. But yeah, I think there's a lot more positive case studies now that are going to come through from various different farming businesses, from small to large, whatever different sector as well, horticulture, broadacre, arable, livestock. The more positive case studies you can talk about on various respects, that actually improves the knowledge base in itself. So talking to others, farmers hearing from other farmers. When I was on farm, It certainly helped me. You know, I was always curious of what other farmers were doing. It's the biggest form of promotion within farming circles, is hearing about what other farmers are doing. Definitely, I think agri-tech is certainly going to be one of those sort of talking points. And I don't think it needs to be as glamorous as people make it seem. As you know, it has to be something huge. It has to be a large automated system. It can be as simple as a very small thing, you know, a small sensor, an app. Oh, I've started using this, I've started using that. The more we talk about it, the more we talk about the problems and challenges, the more knowledge we're then sharing without actually knowing it. So we're seeing that happening now. So it's that's a challenge, obviously, to be overcome. But I think in terms of encouraging those collaborations, you know, across seas, Guda mentioned about the link between his old school and Hartpury. It's great to obviously see ex-Hartpury students from across the world. But I mean, those sort of collaborations are really important. You know, talking to others, seeing where things can join up, seeing where things can sort of synergize and bring about and disseminate the benefits. So more of the same in that regard.
Thank you, Ben. So, what do you think can be improved right now on this space? Kuda?
Okay. I think what can be improved, as Ben was saying, was obviously, you know, the connectivity across these with regards to information. And I think, you know, if Rwanda can also vouch for this. At the moment, it's pretty difficult to get farmers together as a group. And obviously, there's the COVID aspect. You know, even before that, it was pretty difficult. So back in the days, the farmers used to come and meet up at clubs and socialize and have a drink and chat about, you know, the issues that they had. So we need to sort of find a way of using the tech where, you know, we can connect maybe over the phone. It doesn't have to be you know, video or whatever the case may be, and we connect all together. So, you know, we can get information from the UK, we can get information from Australia, America, wherever the case may be. And, you know, we can also share our experiences. We've actually, I'm actually part of a group of farmers called the Federation of Young Farmers Club. It is multiracial, it's gender sensitive. It's so basically what we saw was, look, one way or the other, you know, we need each other and we need to be able to share information and help each other whenever we can. It's been very difficult to get financing that in Zimbabwe, and it's expensive to get financing. But just from sharing that information together, we found ways to become very successful, and we've had successful interactions and various farmers that be successful in that. So I would actually definitely want to put that and hopefully showcase other farmers other than myself that have been successful through those interactions. And hopefully we can then connect with the overseas parties and show what we can do. We fill a gap on their end, and they can fill a gap on our end, and we can yeah, work together and collaborate together.
Thank you, Kuda. Tawanda? Hello.
I'm here, sorry. I think as Kuda said, collaboration, now vouch for him.
Yeah.
So collaboration is the key to many things. And that given the agri-tech that's available, because it ranges from apps to technology itself to different things. You know, there's AccuWeather, you've got the farming apps, you've got the data apps and everything. You've got the technology itself from the agri innovation thing. So in order to improve these things, I think it must be more educative, you get the sense. So I think some of the stuff, like Ben was saying, everyone thinks it's all new stuff, but it's stuff that's been there, you get the sense. So if people are educated in that way, that agri-tech is not something to really scare you, but something to work with you, and you can adjust with it as you go with the time, more people will learn more. I mean, Kudos mentioned that he's got sites where he reads on technology and all the stuff from farming that other people are not even aware of. You get the sense. So, and the levels of agri-tech, they differ. So with all that information coming through, I'll give you an example. Now, I'd call this the phone I'm using Agri-tech because it's helped me to link, and be able to be online, to get to communicate. It's part of the technology that's there. You get the sense. There's the apps, there's different stuff. There's even applications for scanning plants to identify what kind of plant that is. There's even applications to scan rocks to identify the rocks that are there. So, I mean, it's basically now people being made aware of, look, this stuff exists and use it. Don't leave it there. It's not something that will bite you or anything like that. There's simple stuff. There's the other complicated stuff, but at least get aware of something that will help you within your thing, your operation itself. Change your style of working.
And yesterday, I think you talk about kinds of app about the trade or information.
Yes, that's part of the thing on the app. Because you need, remember, when you're talking agri-tech now, you must have market linkage. You get the sense. So the market must be linked, whether it's across Africa, the free trade area, whether it's throughout the world. You get the sense. In South Africa, for example, Nigerians get the food every day flown in from Nigeria. You get the sense, because they love the Nigerian food. So I mean, the same way, like, why aren't we supplying our Zimbabweans with the food that they like in South Africa? They like our sweet potato because they're not watery. They're not watered at the end of the season. We let them dry. And so, there's different stuff, their products they want. They've got ground nuts. There's other things called Nimo. I could actually help me with the English name for Nimo, but then it's cowpeas and other stuff like that. So you get the sense. So there's all sorts of markets. And within this agri-tech, like I'm saying, it's like I can't afford robotics, but if the app can tell me that, look, hey, there's the market there, we are linked to the market. And then also within the agri-tech, that market is guaranteed. And then okay, fine, you can produce for that market. And in line with that, then also the market itself is involved within your production. You get the sense through the agri-tech. Because now all the data is there, like we're saying, there's the monitoring and everything. And in order to improve and be able to sustain and supply this market here, that means more and more outgrowers for that market. You get the sense. And with the agri-tech that exists, then more and more people will be more product orientated, market orientated. You get the sense, and they make more money for themselves. Then also there has to be the agri-tech there that even at times if you want to do value addition at your own place, your own production, you can do the value addition and get it sent out as a processed product out, because that's where agri-tech comes in. You get the sense. So before, could I remember, everyone used to go to one grinding mill and grind the maize. And that'll be the whole village. But nowadays, everyone's got grinding mills. But before, it was having a grinding mill was like something that, it's like buying a Mercedes-Benz in a community, But that was the thing, But, nowadays, all the technologies come in and it's helping everywhere. So that's the kind of agri-tech we're taking. It's improving. People are not seeing it, but it's gradually going on every day.
Okay. Thank you, Tawanda. So, Ben, what's your point of view?
Yeah, I'll just add to Wanda's point about agri-tech not seeming as as big and daunting as it should be. I mean, it's very much the smallest of steps can be or smallest of investments, smallest of integrations can be considered agri-tech. I'll give you an example. Very recently, I was talking to a farmer, and he obviously thought precision farming was something very glorious and something that's too far away from himself. And he mentioned to me that he's using GPS and doing accurate measurements and fertilizer applications based on that in the field. And I was quick to point out that is a method of precision farming. So he was like, oh, right, so I'm a precision farmer then. So yeah, I think, it's not as high. It doesn't have to be as detailed as people make it seem, or as very advanced as people make it seem. There are technologies now that are very applied, that have been around for quite some time, but that is considered that method of management. That is considered precision farming. In terms of improvements, I'll mention about awareness and access, because that's certainly something that we're focusing on at Hartbury with the Agri-tech Centre, is that farmers, when they're looking to, let's say they haven't taken on any technology before and they're looking to make their first investment, they're looking to see what they should be considering. It's improving that access to what's available to them. You know, if I ask Kudo and Tawanda today about what technology would probably interest you that you'd like to invest in, they'll probably tell me something that's already available or going to be very available in the very near future. Because if it's something that's 5 years, 10 years from becoming available, it's not relevant to you now. And obviously you want to apply that to your business now. And obviously you want to have that engagement and interest and start trialing and testing this and being a part of the innovation. So that's certainly something that we're focusing on as an Agri-tech Centre, is improving that access to the things that are available. So effectively working hand in hand with farmers about what they want to see, what they want to hear about, and providing that access comprehensively. So whether it's seeing it on a farm, being demonstrated, getting hands-on with it yourself, or whether it's being part of events to help with the training of that. So that's the next hurdle, is once you've invested in that certain app, or once you've invested in a certain software or robotics or whatever it may be, how do you then get the most out of it as a farmer? You know, I talk to some farmers and they'll say to me, they've invested in, say, a robotic milking unit. However, I'll quote a farmer. He says he only uses 10% of the data that automated system collects. And he says, well, what's the problem there? So he said, well, I only actually see a value to that 10% of data, but I don't really know or look to see how I can utilize the other bits of information. Now, it's about really communicating and improving that link between the provider, the vendor, and also the farmer as a user as well. Now, naturally, a lot of funding, obviously, it goes on to what we'll probably discuss later on about how businesses can support it. But agri-tech companies, obviously, they need to have support and resources to help them engage with users and prospective clients, to help them with that training, because ultimately, when you take on new technology, it does require another added bits of learning and other bits of knowledge. And innovation and technology moves forward all the time. You know, rewind back 5 years, I probably didn't think I'd be talking about drones being used commercially on farm, but now I am, you know, about how they could be applied, how they could be used. And this obviously requires added learning and how they function, how you can get the most out of that. So it's about providing that communication, that link between the user and the provider. But in terms of development of technologies, there needs to be communication from someone who has an early idea, and obviously the initiatives, the organizations, and in terms of supporting those businesses and those people with those ideas, all the way to those commercial users. I mean, when you develop a business, you do your market research, don't you? You want to know what's going on in industry, what the problems are, what the needs are, what the views are. So it's about improving that connection as we introduce or develop or innovate or fund new technologies as well. So encouraging that communication across that sort of development pathway or development roadmap will bring about great things. You know, will bring about hopefully a lot more technologies being what you could describe as probably the golden egg. You know, a lot more things that are thinking, wow, you know, you're turning heads, they're hitting the nail on the head in terms of challenges they're hitting, challenges they're solving, and really being something that's answering a call from industry, but also being 3 steps ahead. You know, technology is all about being ahead, you know, something you never even thought of, but has actually provided a benefit to you. But it's not without forgetting about stages 1 and 2, you know, what farmers are currently going through. So having that insight, having that communication from all parties across that development path, and everyone involved, that's including ourselves, including farmers, including education providers, early investors, those programs involved with that, as well as those are supporting startup businesses. It's needed. Communication across that channel is needed because we want to encourage more and more products as well to come through and make a huge impact. So that's really my viewpoint. Sorry to drone on, but that's the encouraging work I'd like to sort of bring about, really.
Thank you, Ben. So how could you think of that, Kuda? How could you get those information, and what may be your needs to have this link between, those information, the provider, and you as a farmer with your needs? What could be your needs to get in touch with all of that?
I think with regards to our needs at the present moment, the major issue is that we just don't have information. The information that we get is very limited as farmers. So the more information we get, we're definitely willing, we're definitely aware, and it's seen on our lands, the effects of climate change, number one, of bad agronomical practices, where when you go out into the land to see people, their lands have been eroded and that sort of thing. So a lot of technology is definitely needed in all elements that will improve our agriculture and ensure that we maintain it for the future. So with regards to that, there's definitely linkages. I think obviously there's a finance side. There's also information that we need to give to the world of what we need as a nation and as farmers in order to move on and to improve our agriculture. I know at the moment, there has been an issue of first world countries having difficulties with regards to getting young farmers into the system. I think that also has to be addressed for the future. Obviously, I don't know. It's either there is a mind gap, generations, or okay, the younger generation has got a better way of doing things, and there's that tradition aspect that needs to be, that barrier has to be broken somewhere. And so hopefully, as a nation, we also do not want to get to that particular stage, and we want, the younger to get involved. So for me, the more technology that's there, the better.
But now you don't have enough info. So how could it work better for you? What could be done right now for you to?
What could be done? I think it could be obviously these sort of platforms where you communicate from various parts of the world are definitely will definitely help with regards to giving that information to move that information around. Another good thing from what I've seen, obviously us as a nation, we've had like a show society, an agriculture show society. And that agricultural society, I'm sure there's a social society in the UK, I'm sure there's a social society in Australia and that sort of thing. It could be also a vehicle of, where those social societies, we can come show our products. They can come and show their products to us. That sort of thing, getting involved in what's happening on the ground with regards to events, the team will definitely be a big boost just to help out. Embassies, I think they also need to play a big role with regards to that information dissemination. So it's, from my view, it's obviously much bigger than just us. There's a lot that needs to be done. We've taken the right steps with us to be being in this sort of platform and speaking about it.
Thank you, Kuda. Tawanda?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me more about your point of view about what would you need to have all the infos, what maybe you need in your point of view with your experiences on the field right now.
Right now, I think, like I said, with my needs, probably will be based on the market or linkage for that agri-tech to have a purpose. You get the sense, because yes, whichever level of agri-tech I decide to go to, it needs finance. You get the sense. And so now the issue is that, right, there is a market and it needs to be sustained sustainably. Now, that market there is willing to really also invest within the value chain from production all the way up. You get the sense?
Mm.
So if it is willing to invest within that value chain, then with given track record, then that value chain then can be made feasible because you know the money is coming out and you produce towards that. You get the sense? So that's what I see in terms of that. I see that as of in terms of everybody else, because I mean, right now we're talking about that, and we've got farmers who are producing informally and formally, and each one's generating the income. And what usually is recorded is the formal trade, but the informal trade is not really recorded. But for that informal trade to become formal as one, go towards the market that is needed, then is that kind of Agri-tech that comes in, because remember, like we said, value addition, the processing and distribution. So track records of where the stuff is coming from. So in terms of that, that's I'll be looking and saying, okay, fine. This Agri-tech here can back me up because I know, look, I as a farmer know my crop. The tech itself knows what to maintain and look for within that crop. You get the same. So from there now, you're saying, okay, like I have a market that will guarantee me 6 months of the year I have to supply this market, and the other 6 months they have their own product, and maybe I rotate or something like that. But those are the things that you need with that tech, that it must be honed in and linked to everyone I'm involved in. You get the sense, from the field to the end of the value chain.
Thank you. Ben, do you think now that Tawanda could find a way, something from Agri-tech to what he's asking for? Is there something available right now in this part of the
I think
thing?
Yeah, there's lots of different technologies that we've obviously got different types in the areas that they focus. You obviously got production technologies, those that you use to improve your own farm productivity, but then you've got those that are able to share data information, obviously benefit and empower the farms across the supply chain. And obviously what Tawanda mentions there about linking to markets, sharing data information, which could be what I describe as marketable. Now, I will speak on behalf of UK. We're seeing a lot of focus now on and a lot of changes to align to how we can be more environmentally sustainable. Technology has a huge role to play in terms of empowering businesses on an individual level on how impactful you are on the environment. In terms of what we're encouraged to do, and obviously what the blunt facts are two hurdles to overcome there. Obviously, we can carry out more sustainable crop rotations, cover cropping, etc. We can restore habitats, plant trees as a form of sequestering carbon. However, in terms of empowering farmers on how beneficial they are, on what scale they are at doing that, it requires technology. You need to have sort of real-time information of that, real-time or recording of that. So there are different technologies available to share information, definitely, whether what you do in terms of production or whether it's what you do in terms of wider impact to the environment and how beneficial you are. There's definitely things available. I will say that a lot of companies now, agri-tech companies, have that in mind as well. They do have their own sort of sustainability strategy. They want their businesses to be sustainable. They want to provide something that's ever evolving and continues to provide benefits to yourselves as farmers. So it's on their minds also. If it also becomes a common need of farmers to become, let's say, for example, more aware of their water quality or more aware of how beneficial they are to sort of the soils, let's say soil health, putting that into a scale, and obviously setting parameters for that, that could be a branch out for whatever related software or technology is involved with that in production. So you could then potentially, as a farmer, use that to empower yourself. I have a vision in the future that you could go down any farm drive of any scale and ask them about their environmental impact or the production scales and minute aspects of their production on farm, and they'll be able to tell you very quickly, very, very quickly in terms of, okay, come and look at this information, we'll tell you about this, or they'll be able to tell you off the top of their heads, very quickly as well. So And that's having that information and having that update very quickly will only come about through technology, you know, having something that's real time. In terms of what Kuda mentioned about encouraging future generations into agriculture to drive that forward, obviously it starts with how we teach and educate about how food is produced, you know, where your food comes from. It's incredibly important to get that message across. Understanding those principles, understanding the methods involved, is certainly something that we're involved with and proud to be a part of at Hartbury, is obviously agriculture being one of our core subject areas, but also talking about, you know, adding to the fact that agriculture isn't just in a box with these certain categories, you know, of primary food production. This is all you can do in agriculture. There is numerous career opportunities in agriculture that can stream out. And obviously Agri-tech is another opportunity for students to be involved with that and younger generations to be involved with that. But with that also comes the attraction for people outside of agriculture to get involved. You know, if they're coming from very much an urban background, and they've never even considered agriculture before as a career opportunity, and they notice and obviously collaborate and see relations related to their interest in agri-tech, obviously it brings them to be involved in agriculture, which is brilliant. Obviously creates job opportunities, you know, encourages employability. So that the more of the same on that one, really. But as the sector grows, as we encourage more businesses, also you'll find encourages more generations to come through and get involved with agriculture across many different aspects. You know, being involved with farm directly, managing farms, working on farms, or being as an advisor on farms, you know, from a tech respect or other ways. But yeah, I think these are the sort of key ways driving it forward. But yeah, it's certainly interesting to see where we could go, or where we could be, how we could be farming in the next 5 years. That'll be an interesting one.
Thank you, Ben. So we have, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe before the end. So I have a last question for all of you. What is the role of SMEs and investors in supporting agri-tech business post-pandemic and beyond? So, Tawanda, what do you think?
The future of SME business and investors and beyond. I think the future is bright. I mean, look, there's no way SMEs can move without investors. And so with what's going on now, I mean, I believe farmers are even coming up with what they want in terms of their operations, in terms of agri-tech, if you get the sense. So with the investors along the line, everyone's in it for the money, and the SMEs are in there to also make the money. So they need to pump into something that they know their money will come back from. You get the sense? And that kind of data management we're talking of can actually give an investor the data he needs to know that this thing is viable. So I believe that if the investors can invest in what is there as a market, and that market is to be able to feed about 9.7 billion people by the year 2050. And so if it's like that, or to feed the world, then we have to feed the world sustainably. And the only way we can do it is working SMEs and investors together. And that involves investing all across the value chain, if you get the sense. So now I think the world before was operating maybe blindly, if I can say that, because everyone was just farming and everyone was just producing, but then the markets hadn't spoken and, you know, like giving us what we need. But now we're having the markets opening up, and there's free trade areas going across the world. So within those areas, we have to know and say, okay, fine, what is needed? And we have that information. And then the investors also have that information, and the SMEs, we work in covering that information. So I think that's the most important thing to feed the world.
Thank you, Tawanda. Kuda?
Yeah, this is one of the most interesting points. I mean, everybody's got ideas. Everybody's got things that they want to do and achieve in anything. with regards to SMEs, there's always an issue there with regards to having a bankable project, and that's the key point. You have to be bankable. That's the first thing before anything happens. And with regards to the investors have to be comfortable in order for them to invest in a bankable project. Obviously, the pandemic has made us wake up to health issues, to the future, and ensuring that how we live improves in our bodies, our condition improves. What needs to come, from my view, what needs to come together is capital that's friendly capital in a sense, that's sustainable for the SMEs to actually grow. In the viewpoint saying our future is health. That is the most important thing. Before anything else is health. Because without health, you can't move forward. You can't do what you want to achieve as people. So in Zimbabwe, if I put it on a Zimbabwean context, we've been given one of the best climates in the world, but large water bodies, very fertile soils, and all we're trying to achieve is to be able to say, first of all, want to alleviate poverty in our own nation, then alleviate poverty in any other nation that's there. What we are lacking, one is the technology, finance, in order to be able to, make use of our land and be productive on our lands. Yes, we've done it in patches, but I think, with the combination of outside investment, outside technology, outside knowledge, especially the knowledge base from outside, and be able to build a case study. We can start with a simple case study where we come together as the investor, the people of tech, and the farmer, and bring a project to fruition, which then shows that it can be scaled to other nations and beneficial. An example on our end, I don't know how well this is known, but one of the things that we have in abundance in Zimbabwe is and it's a natural herb that just grows naturally, that a lot of people were using. On our end, we call it Mtumbani, and it's been used now coffee. There's a company that's using it as not a coffee, sorry, as tea that you drink on a regular basis that cleanses the system and that sort of thing. That's something that grows naturally that is beneficial to various countries. So we can actually build a case on that and see how it can be scaled up and used elsewhere to help people that are in COVID affected countries. Don't know how long the pandemic is going to be, but we have to work together in order to get the results that we're looking for. So we can actually then come together with investors and build that case and see how we can move from there. Amongst growing berries, amongst growing macadamias, amongst growing pecans, amongst growing anything that's healthy in order to revitalize the body and ensure that we live a healthy lifestyle. So what the pandemic has basically taught us that we need to come together and be, from these interactions, we can find a way to come together and help each other, and just ensure that we work as human beings, ensure that all of us survive, all of us live healthy life.
Thank you so much, Kuda. So to end this conversation, it's your turn, Ben. I think you have 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
I'll try and fit into 10, 15 minutes. But, I think in terms of SME businesses and investors, they're very much at the core of a catalyst for innovation. You know, they're going to be sort of the main drivers for new things coming through. Now, in link to investment, everyone wants to see sustainable investment, don't they? They want to see something that brings about something that creates a business or product that lasts for years. Now, naturally, that sometimes doesn't occur. You know, that's just the way the business world works. But sometimes, obviously, that may be a part of another established product or service, and obviously encourage collaboration there. But obviously, we want to ensure that a lot of products and services coming through in Agri-tech, I'll speak on behalf of, is sustainable. You know, is very much targeting a problem or creating a solution that farmers can grasp and get hold of now and understand and can be implemented, not seamlessly, but very much readily and easily. Now, naturally, we are seeing some technologies come through that may or may not hit the nail on the head, so to speak. You know, they may or may not actually solve a challenge, or the view from a farmer may say, well, something like that already exists, you know, or something like that already exists from an already established company. So really the role of SME businesses and investors on that side is communication. You know, some good characteristics to have, and the ones that I'm certainly aware of in the UK that are doing very well for themselves and very prominent in the market and making a really good difference and impact are the ones that are flexible, but also show humility. You know, they know that where the point at which they stand, they know at the scale and the stage of development where they are, but they're willing to work, obviously, with others. They're willing to work and be flexible with others. You know, at the heart of innovation is collaboration, you know, especially in agri-tech. You need things to talk to one another. You need things to be, you know, easy communication for the farmer. You know, the ever-evolving dream of a farm in terms of agri-tech is to have everything at a fingertip, isn't it? To have everything on one screen that you can easily control. I think we're a long way off from having that, but the closer we can get to that is with that communication, collaboration, and obviously farmers to be aware of who's talking to who. And I obviously mention a lot to the farmers and the work that we do with farmers through the centre in terms of improving that knowledge base and understanding is the ways in which, in terms of a top tip or a bit of advice, is the way in which we look at our now physical landscape and our resources. We also equivalently need to now look at our digital landscape and resources. You know, what things can be improved, what things would need more heavy investment than others. You know, what can we utilize maybe a bit more? What aspects would I like to measure that we can do? You know, these are sort of things behind our physical resources that we need to now capture. But that information is of incredible value and obviously insight in market to those SMEs and investors. You know, they need to have that market insight. So they need to understand themselves what the farmer is experiencing, you know, the markets as well. No, not only just in produce and production, but also throughout the supply chain. You know, what's going on in processing, what's going on in terms of assurance, what's going on in terms of what consumers want. Understanding that and having a projection and forecast based on some solid facts and solid evidence finding is going to put them in good stead. You know, having that, spending that time to do that research and obviously ask the questions, understand market, talk to farmers, talk to supply chain businesses, talk to consumers of food, you know, as well. And it'll certainly help them, you know, to then create something that, like I mentioned before, is 3 steps ahead, you know, because that's what we want. You know, we want something that's going to turn heads. Technology is creating something, a new knowledge, new practice, new product that we probably wouldn't have considered or be aware of. You know, drones seems like it's come out of the woodwork quite quickly now. You know, robotics is now certainly becoming now more of a reality to farmers. Automated systems, you know, all these things, if you rewind, like I said before, centuries ago, would have seemed like a pipe dream, would have seemed like something that could never be implemented into farming, but now it is. So that's really as a result of understanding market, understanding challenges, understanding where things are going, understanding what information needs to be captured that's of value to the farmer and of value to a supply chain business, of value to a consumer. You know, Kuda mentioned about health. to potentially have aspects from a farm or data coming from a farm that promotes the fact that, certain produce is more beneficial to your health than others, or knowing what aspects or how that's produced is more sustainable than others. Having that easy of access across a supply chain and also to a consumer is a great responsibility of technology, as well as connectivity, as which we've highlighted as a challenge. But going forwards, that's what needs to be improved. But yeah, I think in terms of SMEs and investors, they have a massive role to play in driving that forward. But being flexible to talk to those that are already established, very large companies could be perhaps internationally trading, and having humility to understand where you stand, but also having the empowerment to understand that, or know that what you're providing, what you're creating, what your idea is of huge value. But I think having the flexibility as well to talk to others, as well as being willing to talk to the likes of farmers, supply chain businesses, etc., will put you in good stead. And they're the sort of aspects and characteristics that are really positive from the likes of the ones that I talk to and we work with. From early stage company, it's great to see them grow and then become established commercial, which are the ones we obviously work with, and understand their story. They've all come from different backgrounds. They've all come from different, sort of development pathways and overcome different struggles. But the key thing that's put them in good stead is those characteristics of remaining flexible, remaining brave, and obviously empowered the fact that what they've got is of value, spending the time and obviously putting the time into understanding sort of views from farmers and such businesses. So, but yeah, they have a sort of humongous role to play and a huge responsibility. But those sort of characteristics will put them in good stead.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, all of you. If someone wants to add something about that, or I think, Jill, I think we achieved the end of this exchange.
Hiya.
Hiya.
Okay.
Are you finished?
Yes, we do.
I caught various bits of it. The bits I heard were incredibly interesting, so fantastic. So
Okay, so thank you all for this participation, and I really enjoyed preparing this and giving you this space for you.